All right, we're going to go live. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the webinar, Engaging Service Members, Veterans, and Their Families Through Faith-Based Partnerships, sponsored by SAMHSA's Service Members, Veterans, and Their Families Technical Assistance Center. My name is Samantha Holcomb. I'm a Senior Director of Practice Improvement for the National Council for Behavioral Health, and I will serve as your moderator for this afternoon. Before I begin, I'd like to draw your attention to some important webinar logistics. During today's presentation, your slides will be automatically synchronized with the audio, so you will not need to flip through any slides to follow along. There are two audio options for today's webinar, phone or computer audio. If you're using your telephone, please make sure to enter your audio PIN into your phone. You may send us questions at any time during the webinar by submitting them through the Q&A option located in the navigation bar. Depending on the question, we may type an answer back to you or save it for the end. We'll answer as many questions as time allows. This webinar is being recorded, and an audio version of the entire webinar, as well as a PDF of the presentation slides, will be available on the webinar archives page of the National Council website within 48 hours of the broadcast. Following the webinar, we invite you to please complete a short survey. And now, if you're ready, Cicely, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Samantha. And thank you all for joining us this afternoon. We're really excited to have some amazing speakers to share and to share a little bit about the reason behind our desire to share this information today. As Samantha mentioned, I get to serve as the Military and Veteran Affairs Liaison at SAMHSA, and we're really honored to be coming to you live from our annual SAMHSA Veterans Day observance activity. We're joined by our Deputy Assistant Secretary and some amazing staff here. And giving a shout out to all of our HHSY partners that are listening today as part of the department's month-long observance of Veterans Day activities. Next slide, please. And it wouldn't be a government webinar without a government disclaimer. Please just note that the views, opinions, and content expressed in the presentation today don't necessarily reflect the views, opinions, or policies of the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration or the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Next slide. So since about 2008, SAMHSA has been partnering with our states and territories to strengthen the behavioral health systems serving our service members, veterans, and their families. We've been doing this through providing technical assistance through what we know as the SMVF Technical Assistance Center. Our goal is to make sure that we're leading efforts to ensure that substance use and mental health issues among all Americans, including our service members, veterans, and their families, are well understood. Next slide. We do this through strengthening our ongoing collaboration among both military and civilian stakeholders. We want to provide a centralized mechanism for cities, states, and territories to learn, connect, and share with one another on this topic. And we help to increase awareness and access to resources and the programs that are provided to ultimately strengthen the behavioral health care system serving our SMVF and their families. We want to support coordinated responses to the needs that are arising, especially for our new era veterans, but also from our previous era veterans. And we are encouraging both our community level and our state level, as well as our national partners, to make sure that they're implementing promising best practices and evidence-based practices as they come to scale. Next slide. All of this work is done through a number of ways that folks on the line can join us throughout the year. Some of this activity takes place through our Policy Academy process, which are face-to-face activities that we're doing currently with a number of communities around suicide prevention with our partners at the VA. In addition, we'll do a number of webinars. This is one of 3 that'll be coming to you this year on various topics. And we pick our topics and our technical assistance based on the feedback from folks that are being served by the Technical Assistance Center. So please take time at the end of this webinar to share your feedback and let us know of any topics that you'd like to hear coming up. We do learning communities and on-site virtual expert consultation, bringing subject matter experts from a national level to those at the community level so that we can ensure that that knowledge dissemination happens nationwide. And of course, we're here as a resource. So whether it's a dissemination of a product from our partners at VA and DoD or within our SAMHSA resources, we're here to help promote those and provide and connect individuals with the services that are out there. Next slide. Please know that today's webinar in particular comes to you because of a number of the amazing work and partners that we've been coming in contact with through some amazing partnerships through both the current Prevents initiative, learning from the role that our faith-based partners can play in helping to connect with and identify the needs of our veteran service members and their families. We want to make sure that folks, as you go through the next hour with us, understand that there's a need to recognize spiritual and emotional needs of service members, veterans, and their families better, and understand the role that faith-based communities and partnerships can play in helping to integrate and help with transitions. We also want you to know that we're going to be facilitating information dissemination from some amazing programs and help expand and grow partnerships between your communities and your faith-based organizations as an area topic of focus. And finally, to provide examples and lessons learned for convening faith-based activities, events, and to help understand some of the partnerships that are out there doing great things as they work to address suicide, which is a main issue that we're addressing today amongst all the departments, as well as other mental health issues. Next slide. So our goal, again, is to make sure that you also have an opportunity to ask questions of our experts. Please utilize your chat box or your question and answer box today to let us know if there's anything going on with your communities, as well as you have questions for our presenters, we'll make sure to try to get to as many of those as we can. If there's a resource too, we archive all of our webinars and make sure that we review all of the material that our listeners share, and we want to make sure that we can get those information from you as well as partners. So as you go through today, please keep that in mind, and we'll also work to identify any resources and training resources as they come up through the resources and in the archive. Next slide. So our presenters today are some amazing folks that I've heard in other venues, and we're so honored to have them join us here today. In particular, we're going to do introductions just prior to each of their presentations. So we'll start by introducing Chaplain Juliana Lesher, and we're so honored to have Chaplain Lesher here with us today, who actually serves as the National Director of the Chaplain Service for the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. She's served as a chaplain in various healthcare and prison settings across the states of Pennsylvania, California, Wisconsin, Kentucky, North Dakota, Texas, and Virginia. She's obtained her bachelor's degree in public relations. She has a master's in divinity and a PhD in organizational leadership. She has a true passion about serving our nation's veterans and their military families and oversees some amazing work at our VA. Please help me in welcoming Chaplain Juliana Lesher. We're happy to have you here with us today, ma'am.
Oh, thank you so very much. Well, greetings all. It is truly a blessing to be with you today and to share about the spiritual needs of our veterans and the importance of community partnerships in support of our veterans. Next slides. And next slide. So as VA chaplains, we are passionately committed to caring for our veterans and their family members. We have VA chaplains centrally involved in the clinical care of our veterans. We also continually uphold the First Amendment by ensuring that our veterans are able to freely express their religious beliefs while not having a specific faith imposed upon them. Next slide. So who are we as VA chaplains? I like to say that a VA chaplain is someone who has a call within a call. As clergy, we talk of being called to ministry. And I happen to believe that we can all experience a call in our lives where we are called to a particular line of work and believe that we can do no other than the work entrusted to us. As VA chaplains, we are specifically called to minister to those who have borne the battle for our freedoms, as well as to their loved ones. As VA chaplains, our own personal faith is very important to us, and we all are endorsed from a particular faith group for service as VA chaplains. While our own personal faith is important to us, we are distinctly called to serve people of all faiths and honor their faith preferences. Next slide. As part of the clinical team, VA chaplains uphold the value of the veteran's story and often serve as advocates for veterans in helping interdisciplinary teams to understand how the veteran's story impacts the care of the veteran. Some years ago, I was serving on a palliative care team who was wanting me to encourage a World War II veteran to agree to being placed on hospice care. This particular veteran was a Bataan Death March survivor. He was a true survivor and a man of deep faith. He noted to me that he was not afraid to die, but that he just could not accept being put on what was called hospice. As he noted, he was a fighter to the very end. While the palliative care team thought that they were doing what was best for the veteran, his life story clearly influenced what he believed was best for his life. By helping the palliative care team see that honoring the fighting spirit of this veteran was best for him, it was true that we all realized that this was the way of honoring his life, his dignity, and his wishes. Next slide. In this slide, I'm noting the value of community. When our service members transition out of the military, they do not live at VA facilities. They live in our communities. While they may have supportive family members and receive care at the VA, the role of the community, and particularly the faith community, is vital. Some veterans do not have supportive family members, and we also know that nearly 70% of returning service members do not always use the VA. So the community is very important. Recognizing the value of faith and community, there is one program which I began at several VA facilities where I served, which is called Veteran Faith Family Fellowship, a worship service for veterans and those who love veterans. These services focused on meeting specific spiritual needs of veterans, upholding the values of faith and family, and created a brotherhood or sisterhood environment of supportive care and sharing. The value of various faith congregations creating these welcoming places and these welcoming havens for veterans is truly so very important. Next slide. So one of the programs which VA Chaplaincy holds is the Community Clergy Training Program to equip and train local community clergy to better understand the spiritual and emotional needs of our veterans. The Office of Rural Health in Veteran Affairs provides funding for distinctly rural community clergy training programs in rural areas of America. We recognize that in distinctly rural areas, veterans may not have easy access to needed treatment and care, and VA's Office of Rural Health, as well as VA chaplains, are seeking to equip community clergy with how to recognize veterans who may be suicidal or have other mental health issues. We are seeking to empower community clergy members in these rural areas to know how to help refer veterans to VA for treatment and care which is needing. The training which is provided focuses on 4 distinct learning modules. The first module is called Military Culture and Wounds of War. This module addresses the invisible wounds of war. The second module is called Pastoral Care with Veterans and Their Families, and this module provides practical pastoral and spiritual care modalities. The third module is called Mental Health Services and Referrals, which familiarizes community clergy with how to refer veterans to VA for care and treatment. And the fourth module is called Building Community Partnerships, which speaks to the value of how welcoming home our service members and helping to meet their needs requires a community-based approach, which involves various community organizations along with the VA in providing care for our veterans. At a community clergy event, which was held in South Texas several years ago, where I was serving at that time, there was a female pastor there. She had sadly lost her son to suicide after he returned from serving in Iraq. At that community clergy training, she tearfully noted, "One suicide is too many, especially when that one is your loved one. Because veteran suicide impacted my life, I'll do what I can to mitigate the suicide rate. Pastors need to be reminded that troubled veterans need support and community." This particular pastor has become distinctly an advocate for the community clergy training programs that we are providing in VA, and has definitely been someone that continually reaches out to other community clergy to have them be involved in these trainings and be involved in the care of our veterans. Next slide. One of the areas which we address in the community clergy training programs is the topic of moral injury. On this slide, I'm noting the historical background about moral injury with terms like the Da Costa syndrome, which goes back to the Civil War, soldier's heart, and shell shock, terms used in World War I, and later also PTSD. Early on, we would recognize, whether it be soldier's heart or shell shock, that would speak to unexplainable heart palpitations and panic. And when post-traumatic stress disorder was recognized, we see that as being characterized by flashbacks, hyperarousal, and avoidance. And while we've now identified post-traumatic stress disorder since the early 1980s, we increasingly will note that talking with mental health providers, there would be often other things that veterans would seem troubled about, even as we were treating post-traumatic stress disorder. And here is where, as chaplains, we would identify the issue of moral injury. Next slide. Moral injury is actually something that clergy have been addressing for decades, even centuries, because it really speaks to when an individual transgresses their basic moral beliefs and expectations. A moral injury results when a transgression of our beliefs is done by us or to us. To a greater or lesser degree, I believe we all, veteran and non-veteran, experience moral injuries. It's very important to note that a moral injury is defined by each person, as what may be a significant transgression for one person may not be viewed as significant by another person. The cry of King David, as illustrated in Psalm 51, is an expression of a moral injury lament. As King David cried, "Against you, you only have I sinned and done what is evil in your sight. Cleanse me with hyssop, and I will be clean. Wash me, and I will be whiter than snow. Restore to me the joy of your salvation, and grant me a willing spirit to sustain me. My sacrifice, O God, is a broken spirit, a broken and contrite heart, God, you will not despise." A little later, I'll note this issue of tying in with the sense of cleansing and feeling the need to be cleaned and whole as so important when one is struggling with a moral injury that will leave one feeling broken and damaged. Next slide. In this particular slide, we see risk factors which contribute to moral injury, distress, and suicide. And we also see resilience factors which contribute to recovery and healthy emotional growth. Risk factors include genetic vulnerability, unfamiliarity with stresses, psychological vulnerability, social isolation, injury, illness, and loss of meaning and purpose. Resilience factors include genetic hardiness, training, psychological hardiness, prior life experience, spirituality, and social support. Time and time again, I have seen the central value of community, of having a place to belong, make a significant difference in the life of a struggling individual. We all long to feel loved and accepted. In the military, service members have a band of brothers and sisters, as well as a battle buddy. I firmly believe that in life, we all need a battle buddy to deal with life stresses and have a community in which we feel loved and accepted. What has been so interesting for me to note over the years is how two veterans can experience very similar traumas, but can have very different paths in how they react to the traumatic events. What I have typically seen is those veterans who have a greater abundance of the resilience factors as compared to the risk factors are those veterans who are more often likely to experience recovery and growth. Next slide. These next couple slides have some quotes about moral injury. Here is a definition of moral injury, which is to be a witness to perceived immoral acts, a failure to stop such actions, or penetration of immoral acts, especially those that are inhumane, cruel, violent, bring about pain, suffering, or death of others. Next slide. What is also significant to note in trauma with moral injury is that when one experiences a trauma or a moral injury, they typically feel cut off from God, from others, and from themselves. Traumatized people typically feel damaged and even untouchable to God and others, and there is always a destruction of meaning. Next slide. In these next two slides, I want to note the reactions, specifically the spiritual reactions to having experienced a moral injury. These include confusions about God or a higher being. The questions arise of, is God punishing me? Am I being punished for the wrong that I did or the wrong that was done to me? Another is a loss of community in the sense that I'm no longer worthy of belonging. I'm not worthy of acceptance. Another is just an altered sense of meaning in life. I'm worthless. Life is worthless. It's all meaningless, meaningless, meaningless. There is no purpose. Another is a loss of beliefs. I can't trust anyone or anything anymore, as well as also a confusion about ethical beliefs and morality. Veterans and others who will express, I just don't know what to do anymore. I'm so confused. I don't feel I can trust anyone. I don't know what to do. Next slide. Other reactions and just include significant loss of relationship with God and others, a sense of being overwhelmed by grief, that there really is no hope. Questions arise of theodicy, which is, why do bad things, horrible things happen to good people? Why is there evil when I desire for there to be good? Feelings also arise of feeling dirty, unclean, unworthy. Feelings also of being permanently damaged and undeserving, as well as feeling angry and being angry at oneself, which typically also leads to self-harm, addictions, and even suicide when one is seeking to end and destroy their lives, as well as overwhelming feelings of guilt and shame. All of these reactions leave a person feeling very desperate and distraught and hopeless. Next slide. Here in this slide, I have what is truly needed by a person in spiritual distress who is suffering from a moral injury. Noting that what is needed is a safe presence with whom to lament. And I have a quote here by Lewis, C.S. Lewis, about how he says, you may talk to me about the truths of religion and I'll listen gladly, or the duty of religion and I'll listen submissively. But don't talk to me about the consolations of religion, or I shall suspect that you don't understand. When one is so overwhelmed with grief and shame and despair, that is not necessarily when there needs to be a sense of instruction, but often very much just a sense of quietness, of someone that just comes and sits and comforts and provides a safe presence and isn't necessarily providing explanations. Someone who is in moral injury and distress does also need, though, a journey of meaning making and discovery, and I'll share about that a little bit more in a later slide. As well as I come to, again, a person in spiritual distress so needs a supportive network to hold them up and give them encouragement. Next slide. This particular slide speaks to the meaning-making journey, and I have here a quote by Viktor Frankl, who is, as many know, the Holocaust survivor surviving horrific odds because of the sense of meaning-making. As he notes, man's search for meaning is the primary motivation in his life. It is not a secondary rationalization of instinctive drives. The source for meaning and the search for meaning is what Viktor Frankl said is needed for survival. So VA chaplains are trained to assist veterans with these meaning-making journeys. And our community clergy training programs also assist community clergy in helping others with meaning-making journeys. And I want us to particularly look now at the red triangle and to help us understand this meaning-making journey by looking at this meaning triangle. If we look at the red triangle, we see experiences in the lower right side. And we all have various experiences in life. Some of those experiences are good, and some of those experiences are very, very bad. While some experiences can be chosen, many times we experience things that we would never want to have a part of our lives. While we may receive undesired experiences in our lives over which we have no or little control, we can choose the attitude that we then give to these life experiences. If you go up to the point of the triangle and see the attitudes, those stances that we bring towards life, again, being in a situation, an experience that we truly do not want to be in, our one choice to decide on is how are we going to face this and what is our attitude. As we choose our attitude, we can then seek to create meaning and purpose to give back to life from the lessons learned or the growth acquired from the painful experiences. If you go down to then the lower left side where it says creativity given to life, as we choose our attitudes and choose to look at how we can grow or learn from painful and hurtful experiences that we would never want to have been through in our lives, we can let our attitude then influence us to consider, how can I be creative and give back to life and give to others from the painful experiences that I have been through? I have often said in my own life that I would never wish the very painful experiences and dark moments of my own life on another person. Yet I also know that the insight and the perceptions that I've gained into the hopeless despairs of others has come from my own personal experiences of dark places, of choosing life after being very suicidal and hopeless myself, and seeking to grow. I know that has all contributed to where I am today. I truly, every day of my life, am so very grateful to God, medical and legal professionals, and many people who intervened to save my life and help me cultivate meaning and purpose in my life when I saw no reason to live. So very grateful each and every day. Next slide. This slide speaks to the value of rituals in helping veterans and others heal from broken places. For our veterans, VA chaplains created a special book of rituals to be offered to veterans needing various forms of spiritual and emotional healing. These rituals offer a sense of healing, meaning, and spiritual renewal. One ritual which we provide is a hand-washing ceremony, which serves as a way to feel cleansed and refreshed, which, as I've noted, with moral injury, so very often veterans and others feel extreme shame, guilt, feel dirty, feel unworthy, and this hand-washing ceremony gives them a sense of feeling cleaned and refreshed and renewed. Next slide. Truly, serving our veterans and their families is a sacred honor for me. I cherish the ministry and the service each and every day, and I have very much valued being with you today, sharing some of what we are doing and providing for our veterans and their families. As chaplains in the Department of Veterans Affairs, very much look forward to how we can continually partner with our faith organizations and community clergy in caring for our veterans and their family members. Next slide. My contact information here is listed in the slide deck, and I certainly welcome any of you to reach out to me, even after today, if there are other questions or other circumstances that may come up that you need me. Thank you. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much, Chaplain Lisher. We really appreciate your overview and the great work that you do and the support you provide to chaplains across the nation doing this great work there at VA. As we move on to our next presenter, I will give an introduction to Dr. Monty Burks, who serves as the Director of Faith-Based Initiatives at the Tennessee Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services. Dr. Burks, in his work, is engaging and connecting Tennessee's faith-based communities to the behavioral health care system with the goal of expanding addiction and mental health support services. He oversees the Tennessee Lifeline Peer Project, a state program aimed at reducing stigma associated with people who suffer from addiction, and the Tennessee Faith-Based Community Coordinators, who help to seek and support congregations in building their capacity to combat addiction and mental health issues in their communities. Dr. Burks has over 18 years of experience working in criminal justice systems in various roles, and includes his teaching in an adjunct capacity at the Montville State Community College, Criminal Justice Research Analyst at the Middle State Tennessee University, and the Criminal Justice Program Coordinator at Tennessee State University, where he still serves as an adjunct today. Previously, he also served as a Program Coordinator and Placement Specialist with the Middle Tennessee Rural Reentry Program, earning his national recognition for Outstanding Professional of the Year from the Southern Criminal Justice Association for helping ex-offenders break down employment barriers. Dr. Burks has a master's degree of art in criminal justice from Middle Tennessee State University and a doctorate in theology from Heritage, and wears the honorable badge of Certified Peer Recovery Specialist. Thank you so much, Dr. Burks, for joining us, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me. Good afternoon, everyone. Next slide, please. So my job at the Tennessee Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services is to connect our congregations to the behavioral health care system. So we took a little bit of data from Tennessee to figure out what was going on in our state early when the opioid epidemic started to show its face. Between 1999 and 2015, our opioid prescriptions per capita rose 710%. The rise in opioid prescriptions from 1999 to 2015 led the labor force participation rate for both prime-age men and women to decline. Next slide. In 2015, opioids kept over 28,000 men in Tennessee out of the labor force and almost 39,000 women in Tennessee out of the labor force. The detrimental effects of opioids on labor markets held true for both rural and non-rural communities. Next slide. Between 1999 and 2015, the rise in opioid dependency and resulting decline in prime age labor force participation cumulatively cost Tennessee's economy nearly 900 million work hours. Now, you multiply that times the current minimum wage, and you've got about $6.5 billion in lost wages due to just the opioid epidemic. This is not addiction as a whole, but just the opioid epidemic in just our state. Next slide, please. We knew that there had to be a paradigm shift in the community to talk about some of the needed conversations, especially in our rural areas. So we utilized a strategic logistic community, our faith community. We wanted to partner with our faith community to effectively reimagine the conversation around recovery. Tennessee has over 12,000 congregations and religious institutions and over 3.5 million people of faith out of a little bit over 3.7 million people. Over 50% of our state's population identify with some type of faith or religious tradition. So we knew that we had enough people in our set communities to be a driving force behind a new message, a message around faith, resiliency, and recovery. Next slide, please. So the approach we took was to start a faith-based initiative and to recognize our congregations for the wonderful work they've done. Our faith-based initiative goals are to connect individuals struggling with treatment. We wanted to utilize our pastors, our clergy, our imams, our rabbis as the first line of defense to understand how to refer people into treatment and recovery support services. Facilitate an understanding of what treatment and recovery are. We understood that our faith communities, sometimes their institutional language is different than ours in state government. Making sure they understood the difference between what treatment was and what recovery support services were. Increase knowledge of what addiction is. Talk about the concept of addiction and the addicted brain. Addiction is a treatable disease. It's not a moral failing. Making sure that we understand that these are people that we serve. These are our people. Understand the continuum of care and collaborate with it. Prevention, treatment, and recovery. Understand that relapse falls in between that continuum, and our faith community also falls all the way in the continuum. Next slide, please. Help groups understand and implement a best practice model, which I will explain later. Promote and improve the effectiveness of our faith-based initiative and how it connects our community with recovery and support services. We wanted to make sure that having a faith-based initiative is great, but making sure that our congregations had equal footing in the continuum, to make sure they understood they have a significant and important role. In Tennessee, we have 95 counties. We have three things in every county. You have a sheriff's department, a health department, and a religious institution. When a person's hurt, they have a habit or hangover, they're broken, they fall in between all three institutions. We wanted to make sure that our faith community knew about the other resources, and they were also a resource to the other communities. Next slide, please. So how did we get started? Well, we knew we needed to leverage some of the existing resources in the community and connect them to our faith community. Our community anti-drug coalitions, known as substance abuse prevention coalitions. Treatment and recovery courts, some people refer to them as drug courts. Addiction recovery programs, ARP agencies, which are block grant funded programs in our state that serve people who don't have insurance or lack resources. Our local health departments, our health educators. One of the key and most important groups was our local law enforcement agencies, to get them at the table, to get them to come to the pews of our sanctuaries, to talk about Narcan and naloxone. And our colleges and our universities, we wanted to also utilize our faith community to promote collegiate recovery. Next slide, please. So how do we build this capacity? We knew that we needed individuals from the community that were culturally competent to the community, that had been through situations so they could understand how to communicate. So we utilized a network of certified peers in the form of three levels: our faith-based community coordinators, Tennessee Project Lifeline, and last, our Tennessee Recovery Navigators. Next slide. So we wanted to utilize peer recovery specialists, CPRSs are their acronym, to help others on a path of recovery from mental illness or substance abuse. They all have firsthand experience with mental illness and or substance use and can offer support and understanding. They use their personal story to help others, and they promote self-determination, personal responsibility, and empowerment. Next slide. Each one of our certified peer recovery specialists has a minimum of 2 years in active recovery, and each CPRS is willing to share their personal success story. We understand that utilizing personal success stories gives other individuals an opportunity for hope and belief. We know that a powerful story can sometimes create a hero sitting beside you in a meeting. So we wanted to make sure that we utilized our peers to share that story, to let people know that, hey, I have lived experience. I've been through a similar circumstance or situation, and I was able to overcome or to transition through that, and let me be of a resource to you. So what we did is we took those peers and we created a path and a platform for them to go out and do this. Next slide, please. So the first level of peers are our faith-based community coordinators. They're a group of individuals with lived experience that will be responsible for recruiting, training, and recognizing congregations as recovery congregations. There are 3 faith-based community coordinators, one in each one of Tennessee's Grand Divisions. Each one of them are housed in our substance abuse prevention coalitions across the state. Next slide. Their job is to promote this best practice model to our faith community. Provide spiritual or pastoral support according to your congregation. We know that leadership buys in with the concept of the conversation around recovery and mental health, that the congregation will have an opportunity to engage. Look at addiction beyond the language of moral failing and look at it as a treatable disease. Embrace and support people in recovery and walk with them on their journey. Our faith institutions are built since their inception to do that. That's fellowshipping. Next slide, please. Disseminate recovery information that our department will provide. We understand that we have a large, unique group of diverse religious institutions. We want to make sure they have the information that works with them according to their denomination, what they will allow in their place of worship. Host or refer individuals to recovery support groups and our Tennessee Project Lifeline. The next level, we will describe how they can help and ultimately become a certified recovery congregation. Next slide. And we want it, so see, these are some of the types of 12 steps and beyond meetings that we've been able to help establish. Of course, there's AA, NA, Celebrate Recovery, et cetera, but we also wanted to work with our congregations to provide outreach, life skills, relapse prevention, spiritual and faith-based support. As my colleague talked about before, spiritual and faith-based support is important. It gives people an opportunity to express their faith and also to express their vulnerability and connect with their higher power. Housing assistance and services, education, child care. Next slide. One of the most important things that they were able to work with our faith communities to create was transportation to and from meetings. We understand that a lot of people in our communities, they go through issues with substance use disorder and mental health. They need to get to or access to and from meetings, but they can't get there. We utilize a cool term called the church Uber, the white van that our congregations use on Wednesdays and Sundays. We encourage our congregations to utilize those to take people to and from services so they can stay connected to their groups, even though their home group may be in a different institution. Next slide. Here's a QR scan that we utilize across our states for our faith communities. We provide symposiums and educational forums for our faith community, and the whole time we're there, we leave this up on the wall, on the board, and we pass this QR scan out. Our faith communities can take their phone, QR scan, and a box will pop up. Their information, a chat box will come up. They can take that information, send it in. It will go out to our faith-based coordinators. They will look through that information to figure out what our congregation's capacity is, what they want to do, and what they're able to do, and they will connect them with the next level of peers. Next slide. To date, we have 521 of these certified recovery congregations doing this type of work. We provided educational forums in all 95 of our counties, and we've been able to increase awareness of recovery support resources statewide. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. The next level is our Lifeline Peer Project. The Lifeline Peer Project was established to reduce the stigma related to the disease of addiction and increase community support. They also establish evidence-based addiction and recovery programs partnering with our faith community. They provide educational presentations for civic groups, faith-based organizations, and community leaders to increase the understanding of the disease of addiction and support recovery strategies. Next slide. There are 10 Project Lifeline coordinators across the state of Tennessee. Each one of them are located in the Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition across the state. To date, they've provided over 4,700 recovery trainings, and they've referred close to 9,000 people to treatment and recovery support services. And they've also started close to 500 new types of recovery meetings, including but not limited to traditional fellowships when you talk about 12 steps. Next slide, please. Here's a map of our Lifeline coordinators, and our faith-based coordinators work in the same map. Our Lifeline coordinators, they serve from Memphis, which is our most western point, to Mountain City, which is our most eastern point. Their job is to connect with every single one of these counties and educate and equip the congregations that the faith-based coordinators have recruited. Some of the things that we've been able to do are build faith-based recovery coalitions across our state. We actually had one forum today. We had 11 different Christian denominations that came together under one roof and decided to build a coalition and to do monthly work surrounding substance abuse and mental health in their community. We have 11 different faith-based recovery coalitions across our state that are very culturally competent to their counties and their communities. Next slide. So the last piece of this puzzle are our Tennessee Recovery Navigators. Again, they're a network of certified peer recovery specialists in long-term recovery. They're a resource for the ERs and EDs, and what they do is they meet people in the ERs and EDs to break the cycle of overdose. When a person overdoses, our recovery navigators are bedside with a card that says, hey, you overdosed, so now what? Their job is to connect the person to treatment from inside the hospital post-overdose overdose incident. Next slide. Our recovery navigators are certified peers with lived experience, and they're a resource for the ERs and EDs. They are not law enforcement, doctors, therapists, or clinicians, counselors, or sponsors. Next slide. To date, they have served over 900 patients in the ERs and EDs around the state of Tennessee. That's 900 people who have overdosed have been met bedside in the last fiscal year to connect with our recovery navigators. And I'm going to explain how all of this works with our faith-based community in just a second. Next slide, please. So the connection is our faith-based community coordinators. They recruit and build relationships with our congregations willing to follow that simple best practice model. Our Project Lifeline works with those volunteer recovery congregations to build recovery support programs. And those programs, again, they're culturally competent to their community. They're not just 12-step programs. Some of the most important tools in our communities to get services to people are programs that provide food, toiletries, transportation. And one of the most important things that I can think of to date is just a congregation that's willing to meet people where they are and just give them a hug. And the last piece of this puzzle are our Tennessee Recovery Navigators. They work with our Project Lifeline to identify community-based resources, including, but not limited to, our recovery congregations. All three work together in tandem to help guide individuals into treatment and support services. Next slide. So I have a very personal stake in this initiative. I'm the son of a veteran. My father passed away in 1997 due to heart complications. He battled addiction in his life. I'm a person that's in long-term recovery from substance abuse and a mental health diagnosis. I just celebrated 20 years free from the bondage that almost destroyed me and my family, and I found my freedom to recovery, my freedom to access recovery through a connection and relationship with our faith community. And my son is also active military. He is in the Marine Corps. And I'm very active with him and the guys that he serves with, because we understand that recovery is a process. And there are a lot of people that are in recovery that need resources, and a lot of people that don't openly advocate or openly have the conversation for other people. Next slide, please. So the finishing pieces: connect our faith community to hospitals, to treatment programs, and through our faith-based community coordinators, Project Lifeline, and our recovery navigators. Connecting our faith community to recovery support programs and resources, and identifying champions to become peer recovery specialists. Part of our faith-based initiative is we connect our congregations that work with us to an initiative called the Certified Peer Recovery Initiative. And we get someone trained in every one of those congregations. It's a week-long free training for them to go back into their congregation and be the peer that can guide people to resources and help people connect with the recovery community at large. Next slide, please. Here are links to the resources that I discussed. We have a toolkit that we have just published that we've distributed nationally. The toolkit goes from A to Z on our faith-based initiative and how we've connected with our diverse religious institutions and faith communities. Also, our Certified Peer Recovery Specialist program, there's a link there for that. And as it goes down, there's a link for each one of the programs that we've discussed. And there's also contact information for the practitioners in those initiatives. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Here's my contact information, and I just want to leave you with this. How you choose to look at someone doesn't change them, it changes you. We have to be overly cautious when dealing with people in the community to not label them the condition that they've had to suffer. Our faith communities are on the front lines. They've been on the front lines since longer than anyone on this phone call. And this is something that I said last week at a training that we did. Our faith communities stood before any of us had a job, and they'll stand long after each one of us have met the dust. So we want to make sure that our faith communities have equal footing and equal representation and an opportunity to serve their community, and also an opportunity to connect people to treatment and recovery resources and to become the resource they didn't have when they needed one. Thank all of you listeners, and I really appreciate it, and I'm open to answer questions now. We'll be answering questions in our chat box, so please feel free to chime in for the time that we have left. Linda Lancaster asked a question: how would a veteran in recovery in Arizona get trained as a certified peer recovery specialist? Linda, we are working closely with Arizona, actually, on our faith-based initiative. The state of Arizona has a recovery initiative, and I'm going to send you the information so that you can reach out to them on your own. And I hope that'll work for you. Thank you for asking that question.
Hello, everyone. This is Samantha from the National Council. I sincerely apologize. We had a fire alarm, as you might be able to tell from my out-of-breathness. And we had a few technical difficulties on this side because of that. But I am back, and our presenters are still back, and it looks like there's going to be, or has already been, some Q&A going on. So I'm going to take a breath for a second. And Cicely, I'm going to turn it over to you just in case you want to do any wrap up as we kind of garner around some of the questions.
Thanks. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. I just was going to share one more resource, which is the Faith, Hope, Life activity. If folks were, as you get your questions answered by our two experts today, and thanks for sticking with us, one of the things that you could do locally is to take a look at the National Action Alliance Task Force, faith-based task force, has put together an annual activity. Actually, this activity takes place in the fall around our suicide prevention efforts in September. And it's the week of prayer where we actually can give wonderful resources through this campaign for any denomination, any creed of individual that wants to join the national initiative. And so in the slide deck, I think we've already gone by that slide, but there is a great resource link that folks can utilize to learn more about how their local faith community could be a part of this effort. It's a great kind of dip your toe in and kind of learn a little bit about some of the resources that are out there. So again, I think one of the best things that we can take away from today is learning about how critical a partner our faith-based communities can be in the behavioral health field. And again, I'll turn things back over. I want to take a look because I'm not sure exactly how many of our questions got answered in writing. But Michelle, if you guys are able to get us started. Juliana, I don't know if you're able to talk a little bit about how people can connect with the chaplains that are in their own areas.
Okay. I would say at this point, certainly you all have my email address, and if people email me, I can point you distinctly to the chaplain contacts in your area. Certainly, if you are aware of the local VA medical center in your area, you can contact that local VA medical center, and they, calling just into their main number will put you into their chaplain office. Or if you contact me, I can put you also in touch with the local VA chaplains in the area.
Great. Thank you so much, Juliana. And again, I really appreciate everyone who stuck around as we navigated this funny situation. I think one of the biggest questions I'm also seeing a common theme and thread through some of the remaining questions that weren't answered via chat is how do you navigate, or do either of you have recommendations for how you engage with local organizations, church organizations, and align your initiatives because they often have other things that they are working on as well and their own priorities, and how do you engage with leadership locally for church initiatives?
This is Juliana, and I'll start with that. One thing I'm clearly aware of, most local pastors in small and large communities are very busy, and certainly individual congregations will have their own programs, and trying to introduce another program can sometimes be something that they feel like their plates are already overflowing. So keenly very aware of that. So one thing that is very mindful to be aware of is when we are reaching out to community clergy is to see, one, do they even have some veteran programs that are already taking place? If they do, great. How can we complement that, be a resource to that? And again, that it's really that partnership. As and some of our community clergy are veterans themselves. So, what are things that, again, we can listen to them, and really stressing that it's a partnership, certainly between VA chaplains and between the Department of Veterans Affairs and our local faith communities, our local faith providers, that we're all in it together, and really seeing where we can, again, share resources and complement one another's, noting that if a local congregation has a particular outreach program for veterans, that whether if there's information that we can make available to veterans of that particular faith tradition, that's something that we can also do in sharing of resources. This is Juliana again. I can ask if I'm being heard. If I am, I see there's another question here. I could respond, or I can keep typing responses as well.
Sorry about that. I'm having some muting issues as well. So the next question is actually for Dr. Burks.
Okay.
And the question is, could you share information about how your materials may have been tailored or could be tailored for different faiths or cultures? Dr. Burks, could you answer that?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Oh yeah, sorry. Okay, thank you. I was having some muting issues as well. So part of our faith community coordinator's job is to be culturally competent to our diverse religious and faith communities. We've taken a targeted approach to reaching out to all of our different faith traditions and beliefs, and helping them build toolkits that connect their communities to state resources, as well as to help them build their own types of recovery resources. And an example is we work with some of our different traditions on building translated toolkits to take to their religious and worship services, so they can read off information to their congregations or to their temple, mosque, synagogue meetings, that surround issues that they have in their communities. So the dialogue has to come from their leadership to their parishioners. And we've been able to do that in quite a few of our different traditions. We had a conference last week. We had 340 people attend from 4 different faith and religious traditions, 13 different Christian denominations and 4 different belief systems under one roof to talk about addiction, treatment, recovery, and mental health issues. So how we've been able to do that is to be culturally competent and be vulnerable and to be also accessible. That means that my team are not catered to one belief system. They're created to serve the concept of recovery for all traditions. And I hope that answers the question.
Incredibly helpful. Thank you so much. I think this is in a similar vein to the question that we posed a little bit earlier to Chaplain Leisher, but what I'm seeing in the questions is really that there's a lot of eagerness to engage in this type of work. And one of the questions is, how can non-chaplain employees and others be part of engaging in community partnerships for faith-based initiatives?
This is Juliana. I'll start by emphasizing that the Department of Veterans Affairs has a relatively new office called the Office of Patient Experience. The Office of Patient Experience throughout the country is creating what they call community engagement boards, CEBs. And these community engagement boards, certainly, from my perspective, also being part of this whole initiative, we want to include faith providers, community clergy, faith-based organizations, but certainly open to other community civic organizations that are not spiritually necessarily related, but are about community and service. And that is really the whole purpose, again, of creating these community engagement boards as part of initiative from the Office of Patient Experience. So I can put you, again, if you're in touch with me, I can put you back in touch with the contacts in the Office of Patient Experience where these community engagement boards are created and established and where they're growing. We're actually, again, working with the Office of Patient Experience in trying, when we go in and provide the community clergy trainings, we're then also trying to establish community engagement boards that will involve those that are not necessarily faith-based. And so certainly there's a desire to create a lot of these community engagement boards across the country and really almost in every community to support our veterans.
Dr. Brooks, do you have anything to add as well in terms of you being a non-clergy member and recommendations for engaging in community partnerships and really participating in faith-based initiatives?
Absolutely, absolutely. So one of the things that helped us in our faith-based initiative was to listen first. We traveled the state in the inception of our initiative and pulled together community collaborations in the form of town halls, symposiums, and pulled all the community together, including the faith community, and had panel discussions to talk about what needs were pressing in the communities. We almost did mini SWOT analysis in each one of our respective communities. I work very closely with our Tennessee Suicide Prevention Network, which has a very strong veterans component, and we had our veterans to come in to talk as well about issues that they saw in their community. This was not, these groups and these meetings and these conversations were not isolated. We pulled people from outside of the community. It wasn't just for clergy, but we wanted to make sure that our faith communities understood that, hey, there are other issues that are surrounding your communities that are happening outside of the 4 walls of your traditional sanctuaries. And it gave them an opportunity to see if they wanted to be part of, helping be part of some of these issues being solved in their community, or they at least wanted to know about resources so they could share with their parishioners. What I would suggest for people working from a non-clergy standpoint is to just have an listening sessions in the community and give everybody an equal voice to communicate or to speak. In my respect, I'm an educator. I'm not clergy, but I'm a person that's in long-term recovery. So I also represent an educator and a peer. So I've been through each one of these situations. I've had things happen in my home and in my personal life that gives me some footing in a community, in a conversation where I can share truthful testimony, having been burned by the fire, so I know what it feels like and I know what it smells like. And when you give other people the opportunity to tell their stories so they can offer a piece of the solution from their standpoint, it tends to bring the community in better when you listen to the community. What works on one side of our state doesn't work on the other side. What works in rural sometimes doesn't work in urban. So we want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to speak. We can cross-collaborate, and then we can build together.
Great, thank you so much. And I think I'll turn it over to Cicely and Philip now.
Okay, thank you everyone. There's a very rich Q&A session. We do again apologize for that dead air earlier. We had experienced some issues, but I'm glad that a lot of the questions were able to be answered in the Q&A box, as well as our presenters being dynamic and able to answer those as well. So I want to thank you, Chaplain Lesher, so much for being able to be on this call and giving such a great presentation. And Dr. Burks, I want to thank you as well, and our moderator, Cicely. We want to thank you and all of our attendees for coming and participating and hanging on. For us on the TA Center, we just thank you very much, and wish you a great weekend. And moving forward, if you have any questions, feel free to dial us by phone at the extension provided in front of you, or by email at the email provided there.
All right, and I just want to add a reminder that once you leave today's webinar, you will be redirected to a survey on the presentation. We'd appreciate it if you would complete that and provide your feedback, knowing that we did encounter some technical issues on my end due to our fire alarm over here. But you will also receive a follow-up email by the end of the week with a link to view a recording of today's webinar. So I know a lot of people had interest in receiving slides, and you will be able to access those as well as the recording. And on behalf of the National Council Policy Research Associates and SAMHSA's SMVF TA Center, thank you for joining us this afternoon and sticking with us.